I wasn't going to start with jokes today because the meditation was so moving and powerful. But the truth is, I can always come back to that gathering table. And maybe around my table we do tell jokes anyway, but since Doug is here, I have to just share a couple of things. This is a quote from George Burns. Remember George Burns? He said, "The secret of a good sermon is to have a good beginning and a good ending, and to have the two as close together as possible." A priest and a rabbi were eating together when the priest started to tease the rabbi. "Wow, this ham is really good," he said, licking his lips. "I know it's against your religion, but when are you going to break down and finally have some?" Well, after a moment's thought, the rabbi responded with a smile, "I'll have it at your wedding." Okay, some Catholic and Jewish humor. All right, back to serious stuff. So this month I've been sharing with us the theme of intentional living. Intentional living. How can I consciously choose the life I want to lead for today and the rest of my days? What are the tools that are available to me to let my heart's desires manifest themselves as I head into the autumn of my years? How should I use my spiritual tools to co-create with God the experience of my highest good? So you might remember on the first Sunday of this month, we looked at how we can make every day a new year, a New Year's Day. We recognize the simple truth that we live our lives one day at a time. And this awareness allows us to focus just for today, on deepening our conscious contact with the divine presence within us. We set our intentions on manifesting the life we want to live one day at a time. And our affirmation for that work was this: every day I start my life anew, I tell God what I want, and I let go and get out of the way. Every day I start my life anew, I tell God what I want, and I let go and get out of the way. Then the next week, we discussed how we can use truth principles to deal with the fears and anxieties that are a natural part of our lives and often get in the way of conscious contact with God. We saw how the gospel story of Jesus and Satan in the desert offers us foundational principles for using what Emmett Fox calls the golden key. The golden key is, in the face of our fears, we keep our focus on God. We said the letters of the word fear, F-E-A-R, stand for false evidence appearing real. God is greater than any condition we might experience, and so our affirmation for this word is, God is with me now. The truth of God's love sets me free of my fears. God is with me now, and the truth of God's love sets me free of my fears. So today, we're going to conclude looking at intentional living for the moment by looking at the mysteries of life, and how the mysteries are the gateway to the indwelling Christ consciousness. We will consider how the key to living intentionally is the willingness to leap into the unknown, to face and leap into the unknown, confident that God is with us every step of the way. So, whatever the conditions of our lives this morning, whatever the fears, the concerns, the anxieties, the problems that we're facing right now, as true students, we believe that we make our own world, we make our lives, our reality with our thoughts. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. We also believe that when our thoughts produce unhappy or limiting experiences, we can change these outcomes by changing our internal focus. Rather than giving the exterior circumstances the power to determine our lives, we can rely upon the truth. And the truth is that when we move our focus from the outside to the God that lives inside, we bring the outside into alignment with the divine state inside. When we deny the power, using our denials and affirmations, we deny the power of the condition and affirm the power of the indwelling Christ, we allow God to create the harmony that expresses, as Claudia said in her meditation, the peace that passes understanding. So we want to look at this understanding thing, because it's our natural human need, isn't it, to explain things. We need to explain things. That need to explain is often is what gets in our way. So our challenge and our opportunity arises almost entirely from our intellect, which is designed to seek certainty about everything that we encounter. Our intellect is an essential element of our humanity, but it's a two-edged sword when it comes to opening the door to the deeper truth. Now, the human mind is a marvel of the universe. It's an indispensable instrument of the unfoldment of consciousness that we humans were designed to help accelerate. And for all we know, we remain unique among the 9 million species of living creatures that are on this planet right now. We alone have the capacity to think, to cogitate, to imagine, to consider and reflect, to inhabit an interior space independent of the physical environment outside our heads. And what our human minds can do is not mere mentation. They also generate imaginary pictures and movies in our conscious and subconscious minds that imitate reality and anticipate future circumstances. And so we can not only reason and figure stuff out, but we can also, and sometimes do this at the same time, imagine alternative situations and futures that we can then choose to pursue on a long-term basis. Now, behind all this mental work is a picture of ourselves. A picture of ourselves as the actor and the object of whatever is going on in our lives. We have this unconscious image, which is the essential element of self-reflection. I must have a self to see, to reflect on. Now, I've gone through my life looking at myself and the world around me through a hidden mental frame. I have a picture of Marty Keller, and I act as if that picture were an absolute truth. This self-reflective capacity helps get me and all of us through life because it's actually a very efficient way to solve problems, to make things change, to build a world. And with our human minds, we can actually see how this capacity is an evolutionary advance. So powerful and comprehensive are the activities of our minds that we scarce need to be aware of them. We can go through our entire lives, decade after decade, without the slightest awareness of the mental machine that's working away, getting us through our days, dominating our consciousness. We can even manage without awareness of our capacity to be self-aware. Now, in Lessons in Truth, remember this Unity's basic text, Dr. Katie tells us that this capacity for self-awareness is not an automatic blessing. Remember what she said in the first chapter. Every man, every human being, believes himself to be in bondage to the flesh and to the things of the flesh. All suffering is the result of this belief. The history of the coming of the children of Israel out of their long bondage in Egypt is descriptive of the human mind, or consciousness, growing out of the animal or sense part of man into the spiritual part. So what she's saying is that from the very beginning of our actual lives, our capacity for self-reflection, for self-awareness is conditioned. It's conditioned by the laws of human development. We are born into a world of conditionality, limitations, traumas, fears, and all of these, even in the most loving of families, conspire to imprison us into error consciousness, into this belief that we're in bondage to this flesh. Or in other words, that this frame through which we see things is absolute, unchanging, and real. So our task then becomes, as our human ancestors, fortunately for us, have from the very beginning been doing, to use our natural faculties to break out of this prison, to bust the frame. For the greatest blessing comes when we realize that there is something greater, more powerful, and more welcoming than mere human understanding, wonderful as that can be. So it turns out that we start the journey to escaping our intellectual prison even before we completely master our human mental capabilities. And how do we do that? Remember when you were a little kid? What was our primary purpose? Play. We were effortlessly and naturally drawn to play, and that's where we began to exercise imagination, or perhaps conversely, imagination began to exercise us. The beauty of this period in our lives is that there was no limit to what we could imagine, because there was no limit to our play. As little kids, we basically live in a magical world with fluid boundaries, kaleidoscopic imagery, infinite places to explore, and of course, demons and boogeymen, as well as angels and fairy godmothers. The point I'm making is that before we start the work of rational mental discipline, before we learn to use the tools of logic and judgment, we learn unconsciously, of course, the value and joy of using our imaginations. Now, Unity teaches that imagination is our ability to form or shape the formless mental energy, the mental energy which is omnipresent, invisible, formless, unlimited. The imagination faculty in man is the God-given ability to appropriate the formless, shapeless, invisible mental energy and to give it form, shape, color, density, and direction. So for our purposes today, we can say that imagination is the faculty that opens the door to transcending belief in the bondage to the flesh and coming into absolute felt communion with the indwelling one. Imagination, this is because imagination helps us notice deficiencies in our rational knowledge and to explore the mysteries that this awareness exposes. The words mystery and mysticism, you will not be surprised, derive from the same Greek word, and that Greek word means secret or hidden. And so what is mystery to the human intellect is actually the land in which the love and power of God reigns forever. It's the land toward which we are drawn. So this means that in order to realize spirit right here, right now, to make the experiences of spirit real, it's essential to lean directly and fearlessly into the mysteries surrounding us in every moment of our lives. And the mysteries are omnipresent, aren't they? And they appear both tiny and enormous. So examples of small mysteries might include, is it going to rain later today? What will a loved one say when I have to tell him or her something I don't really want to say? How quickly can I get in to see my doctor or my accountant, my car repair person? Where did I leave my shoes? Where's my wallet? Where did I leave my purse? Great mysteries might include, why does God allow pain in the universe? What happens when I die? How come it's so difficult to let go and let God? How did an inanimate universe give rise to animate life? And on and on and on. The mysteries are endless, are they not? And that's because our mind, the capacity of our mind to ask these questions is endless. And so when we consider the matter, it might seem as if the sum total of what we know intellectually is but a little tiny raft floating on the ocean of mystery and unknowns. It's ironic that with our intellect, we can conclude that there is, in fact, an entire limitless realm of information and knowledge that we cannot possibly know with any rational means that our mind can apply. There's a dominion of unknowns so enormous that we can't even begin to fathom it. Well, you might not be aware that the Unity theme of this month, and Unity offers a theme for every month, the Unity theme for this month is mystery. And the affirmation is, I allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. I allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. Would you be willing to affirm that with me? I allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. Now, a significant mystery that we've been exploring this year and will work on for some time is, what will the rest of my life be like? It's a mystery. Because the truth is, we cannot know with any mental certainty what this afternoon will bring us, much less what the rest of the years of our lives will bring us. And for many, this lack of information and certainty can cause anxiety, or at least caution. Because in the face of the unknown, we human beings often tend to imagine the worst. Do you ever do that? It's like, I don't know what's going to happen, therefore the worst thing is going to happen. Just automatically pops up in my head. But as true students, as we just said, we allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. We actually celebrate the mystery, for the mystery represents the field of infinite possibilities from which we can choose our highest good. Our thinking minds may not be able to penetrate the unknown, but when we surrender to the God who lives within us, the God who lives as us, this is simply not necessary. We do not need to solve the mystery. Instead, as Jesus says in Matthew chapter 13, except ye turn and become as little children, ye shall in no wise enter into the kingdom of heaven. So as we saw a few minutes ago, when we looked at the imagination that we have as children when we play, we live as children in a preconceptual, magical world. For children, remember when we were kids, intellectual constructs such as concepts have no meaning. The idea of mystery is a non-operational notion. Kids don't know what mystery is. That's because kids live in mystery without needing to be aware of the fact. For us as children, the unknown is merely something to explore. It's an opportunity to play some more. So in order to enter the kingdom, that is, to become into conscious harmony with the divine of our being, we must transcend this intellectual realm of facts, concepts, and analysis and open ourselves back up to the mystery we were willing to play in as children. Because there is an entire universe still alive within each of us. And so we can leave this intellectual realm behind, grateful for everything it does for us. It helps drive me home. It helps me pay the rent. It helps me take care of my health. But now I want to consciously invite the mystery, the unknown, the divine of me to take me over. For because we know that God is everywhere present, we know God is in the mystery. God is in the unknown. God is in the darkness as well as in the light. Now, my father had a saying that he probably didn't come up with on his own, but it summarizes the essence of our spiritual adventure. Whenever I would express doubts or fears about taking on something new or flying off to some strange part of the world or facing an opportunity that I wasn't quite certain about, he'd say, "Son, time to take a step into the fertile void." Take a step into the fertile void. Are we willing to take steps into the fertile void that is our own lives, our own futures? There's a well-known passage from the book of Psalms that tells us why we can do this with confidence. From chapter 139 of Psalms. Let's close our eyes and listen to these words. Whither shall I go from thy spirit, Lord? Or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall overwhelm me, and the light about me shall be night, even the darkness hideth not from thee. But the night shineth as the day, for the darkness and the light are both alike to thee. For centuries, the spiritually quickened have recognized that we must be willing to ignore the limits of our rational intellect and consciously enter the temple of mystery. For only on the other side of logic can the mystery be revealed to the heart. Remember a few months ago when we looked at the Tao Te Ching, in the opening chapter, Lao Tzu says, free from desire, you realize the mystery. You realize the mystery. Make real the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. This darkness represents what must remain unknown or invisible to the intellectual eye. But as the psalmist tells us, darkness and light are the same to God. That which frightens me or warns me away is to God an invitation to the cosmic dance. As we contemplate the truth that we all die, we can rest in the greater truth that wherever we are, in life or death, God is, and all is well. So, as we envision the future we want to experience, as we envision intentionally creating our lives with God as our co-creator, we commit each day, as it says in today's daily word, to let go and let God. The future is eternally mysterious to my little mind, but in God's mind, there is no future, there is no past, there is only the omnipresent now. And in this now, the divine presence shines forth within and without, in darkness and in light, offering such a lovely partnership that even in our own human body, mind, and soul, we do find this peace that passes understanding. We find it here and now. And when we leap into this great unknown, when we open ourselves to the mystery of the indwelling Christ, we feel steadfast confidence to make of our lives what we will. One of our denials, our basic 5 denials, is there is nothing in the universe for me to fear. And one of our affirmations is God alone is real, and God is always and everywhere with me. So will you affirm with me this? With God's loving presence, I allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. With God's loving presence, I allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. Together, with God's loving presence, I allow space for the unknown and the unknowable. So let's follow the example of Charles Fillmore and seal this together in song. Let's take our songbooks and open back to our opening hymn, Confident Living. Let the mystery be an accessory to confident living, because we know that whatever it is we choose, wherever we are, God is. Shall we rise? One. divine presence, we thank you for the capacity to live confidently in the mystery because you are there with us. Thank you, God. Amen.